Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz, Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. On this week's episode, we've got a pair of old friends with a ton of records and history between them. Kelley Stoltz and Spiral Stairs. Spiral Stairs, aka Scott Kannberg, is a founding member of indie rock kingpins Pavement, a band he formed in Stockton, California with his high school friend Stephen Malkmus. What started as a noisy, ramshackle outfit bloomed into one of the most important and influential bands of the 1990s. Their albums have only grown in stature over the years, getting the sort of deluxe reissue treatment that was once reserved only for the gods of classic rock. And though Pavement split up in 1999, they've reunited twice and are about to launch a pretty hefty tour of the US and Europe. Outside of Pavement, Kannberg has kept plenty busy releasing music under both his Spiral Stairs moniker and, for a while, as Preston School of Industry. He's had an incredibly prolific last few years, releasing 3 albums since 2017. The latest is the fantastic Medley Attack, which I'm probably supposed to scream since it has 3 exclamation points. But I won't. It was a record born of some hardship, including COVID, worldwide relocations, and, most unfortunately, the sudden death of Kannberg's bassist, Matt Harris. But those events resulted in what's probably his best solo outing yet. Check out a little bit of the song Pressure Drop, End of the Hurricane, right here.
The warm winds feel the desert. It was the end of the hurricane, and the rain turns to showers, and our love's just the same.
Kannberg enlisted the help of several friends in making that record, including the other half of today's conversation, singer-songwriter Kelley Stoltz. Now, Stoltz is one of those guys who just has a knack for writing incredibly tuneful pop songs. If they were recorded with a little more slickness, you might mistake them for radio hits of the 60s and 70s. I mean that as a high compliment. Stoltz recently released his 17th studio album, The Stylist, and it's a great place to start in a catalog that includes plenty of Stone classics. Check out a little bit of Your Name Escapes Me. As you'll hear in this conversation, though not necessarily in either of those songs, Stoltz and Kannberg first bonded over a mutual love of Echo The Bunnymen. Stoltz actually recorded a full album cover of that band's Crocodiles album, and Kannberg joined him on some live shows to perform it. Weirdly, that led to Stoltz, who as a teen worshipped Ian McCulloch, to a brief stint as rhythm guitarist for the British band. Talk About Echo leads to talk about copycat haircuts of their youth, formative years working in record stores, and lots more. And you'll even get to hear 2 songs in very early stages, one that Kannberg maybe wants to bring to his Pavement bandmates, and one that Stoltz has started writing for his infant daughter. Enjoy.
Well, it's good to see you. How was their tour?
It was good. I went to England, and I went to France, and I went to Spain. Would you say those are the last fully rock enthused places in Europe? I know you're going to Norway, Germany.
Where you can probably make money at your level, right? There's nothing really going on in Germany. I think Pavement shows there are even really selling really bad. And
okay.
So yeah, I think you're right. UK. You didn't go to Ireland.
No, I didn't get to go this time. The trouble with Dublin is it's always like a 6 a.m. ferry one way or the other. And it's just a punisher.
But you get to drink Guinness,
you know. Stay up all night guzzling Guinness, and then it's just like pounding headache and pounding surf and and it's like, and you just arrive in England at 9 a.m. just completely Irish. France was great. Spain was always the best for me.
Looked like from the social media stuff you put up, it looked really amazing.
Well, I only picked the best angles, but I didn't show the back of the room that was empty, and a sad bartender waiting for people to come. But Yeah, in the UK, still entertaining dozens of people a night in the UK.
Yeah, you remind me of like the last of the cabaret singers.
Right. Yeah. We had a few cabaret moments. The best cabaret moment on the tour was the first night we were doing a T-Rex cover of Baby Strange.
Cool.
You know, it's ooh, you're strange. Don't lay me, baby, strange. Don't lay me, baby. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So we played it in Manchester the first night, and Mike Joyce was there from the Smiths.
Yeah.
And, we got to the last song of the night. We're going to do a T-Rex cover. And for whatever reason, Manchester was very much like play as long as you want, do what you want. So we got, an hour and 10 minutes in, and we did T-Rex. And it was like, that first night where you're like, we've been rehearsing and we're here and the flying part's over, the van's rented, the guy's driving is cool. You're just so happy to be there that first night. Maybe you don't even play that good, but it's just a lot of fun. And because it's like it's happening, and I have nothing to do for 30 days but just play music every night. And so it was a really good vibe, and we had a good show. And it got to the last song, and I had a tambourine, and I was like, somebody's got to be on tambourine on this T-Rex. And I pointed at a friend of mine in Manchester, and he was kind of like, I don't want to do it. And I pointed at another friend of mine. She just blanked me, like looked at me like no reply. And somebody pointed at Mike, and I was like, I don't want to ask Mike Joyce to play tambourine with my crappy little band doing a T-Rex cover. You know what I mean? Like, this is way above his qualification and cool level. And he was like totally up for it. He's like, all right. So he came up, and it was just awesome. And really nice guy. And, so that kind of set the stage for the rest of the tour, because I started getting those gigs where it's like you got 40 minutes and then the DJ's on, or we've got a curfew at 10:15. We got to shut the pub by 10:30, mate.
Maybe Mike Joyce, whenever he came to shows, he got to dictate how long he got to play.
Had a great show in Liverpool, and Will from the Bunnymen came, which was nice, and all those local probe record people, and the heads that you've read about in all those Bunnymen books and stuff were there.
And how's Will? He doing good?
He's doing good. He's working on part 2 of his book, his Bunnymen biography. Have you read that book? Have you read the book?
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's very much like story of from his childhood on.
Yeah.
It's a different approach.
I love that kind of history. It's such a different environment than what I grew up in. Like, he's coming out of that post-war, like Liverpool, like it says in the book, like there was bomb damage still around, and his parents still rationed, and my parents never fucking rationed.
No, mine either. And the windows were all painted shut, and
I mean, we had like a lot of frozen meals and beans, but nothing like post-war England.
It felt moldy and damp and dark. He's worked part 2, where the band starts and gets into the meat of the topic that probably the most lay fans, other than like you and I, would gravitate to easily. I think it's a book that people, if they read it, whether they're a massive fan or not, would enjoy it. But they are also like, I need to know more about the crazy years and all that. But all that's coming.
I kind of know this story, but for the people out there on this podcast, for both of us growing up, we were huge Bunnymen fans. I followed them around like in the early 80s and waited after the show to get their autographs. And, I had their posters on my wall. I got my hair cut like, Ian McCulloch. I had this like beautiful kind of mullety hair, long hair.
Yeah, wow.
I was going out with this girl, and I went out and I went to this like hair salon and said, here's a picture of Ian McCulloch. Can you make my hair like that? And they made it like that. And I went back to my girlfriend, saw my girlfriend. She was just like, I'm breaking up with you. Why'd you do that to your hair?
Oh man. Did you have a trench coat and all that?
I had a trench coat. Yeah. I was into it. And I assume you were too. And
I was the same. A few years before, I had taken a picture of Simon Le Bon. And I remember having this weird, like sick fantasy, but I remember my mom was a divorced mother, and I would show her a picture of Simon Le Bon and be like, isn't he good looking? Like, in my mind, I thought maybe there's some way I can fix my mom up with Simon Le Bon so he could be like my dad, and but that's when I was like, 5th grade or something. And but yeah, I took a Simon picture in around 5th grade, and then once you kind of get off the main part of the radio dial, or somebody older loans you cool records, then I started bringing a Mac picture to the haircut, something a little more out there.
Yeah.
And I rolled the Mac for years. I would sit there with a tennis racket. My parents were working till 6 or 7 at night. So I'd get home from school, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. And I would have a tennis racket, and I had a lamp, like a tall, straight lamp that looked like a mic stand. And I took the bulb out, and I had this thing that was like a Mr. Microphone. You remember that? Like you would, It had like a 70s commercial, like, hey ladies, see you in a few, and it was like, It was just a microphone with a little amplifier. And I somehow wedged that into the socket of the light bulb. And that was my mic. And I would play Crocodiles. I would play the Gray album, Lips Like Sugar.
Yeah.
All that. And just sit there, and I would have my trench coat. I'd have my hair up. I would smoke in the house.
No way.
Yes. And my parents would be home in like 2 hours. They didn't smoke. And I had to do it. And I just, for the full effect of it, like I had to have a cigarette
In front of a mirror.
Yeah. And I would just act like Mac or the Bunnymen. And I would literally sit on the couch with my dog and just be like, so Ian, tell us about the new album. I'd be like, well, this is the greatest album that's ever been recorded in the history of time. And I would interview myself.
Wow.
And you gave me that picture disc that's an interview with Mac.
Oh yeah.
In Australia. I memorized parts of it.
Wow.
I still remember that, like, Australia is great except for the flies. There's flies in my hair, flies in my southern tuna fish. I went to go see the 12 Apostles, and there were flies everywhere.
So many flies at the
And I said, and it was like Mac came to mind. I was like, the southern flies in my hair, flies in my tuna fish. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's touring. That's Bunnymen. We're deep. We're nerds.
It's funny because how we met was kind of through a friend who gave me your cover of the Crocodiles record.
Right.
And then we ended up, becoming friends, and then doing a few shows, doing all those songs. And then, a couple years later, you end up being in the Bunnymen.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
You get I was so jealous,
Oh, man.
God, I can't believe he's doing it. Getting up there, playing all those songs, just like.
You luckily had a career to fall back on and something cool of your own that you were doing. And you were able to move on at the age of about 22 from, I was still hanging around backstage trying to get autographs at 25, and you were you were already in Rolling Stone magazine for your own achievement. So it's nothing that I wouldn't be jealous about that.
You had a good time, it seems like.
I did. I got to see the world a little bit and play those songs. And you and I did the Crocodiles concerts in 2003, and I didn't know you. And I remember you came over to my house and we just played, and I think we kind of tried to redo the photo on the inside of the Crocodile sleeve for the poster for the show.
Yeah.
And we were nerds, and I felt like I met, somebody whose music I learned a lot and looked up to meeting you. And then also we went so deep with the Bunnymen that we were like, oh, I know this guy really well, And but you and I, we played that show in New York. We played it in San Francisco a couple times, and we played it in Australia too. But I remember I did that, and then I played my own show with a band, and then I think we were the special guest one. It was like the Peppermint. It was like a proper early punk show for the Bunnymen in '81. I mean, I think we went on at 1 a.m. or something like that.
Right, yeah.
And I just remember going home with the worst case of tinnitus that I ended up writing a song out of it that became a good, successful song for me. Because I went home to Julian Wu's house and laid in the bed in that front room where I would stay in Australia, and my ears were just like, and I was like, I'm there, it's done. This is it. It's never, maybe this is going to be with me. This is what tinnitus is, when you're young in your career, you don't know, okay, it'll go away. And I was like, oh my God, I think I got in at 3 and they just rang and rang until it was like 7 in the morning, and I could hear birds chirping outside. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. Like I can hear just like God was telling me, like, go to sleep, you're gonna be okay. You can hear the birds chirping, life will return.
I've never really worn earplugs. There's times when, they ring after a show and stuff. Yeah, I just don't play loud enough.
Is Pavement loud? Like if somebody got up on stage with you and was standing there, would they say, this is loud?
It would have been in the 90s for sure. And in 2010 probably. But this tour, we've turned way down. I kind of learned that from touring with Wilco, like they play really, really light. And it makes a difference. Really,
yeah, definitely
on your ears, but it also makes a difference where you can hear everybody. And
yeah, I had an experience where I was in Australia again, and I don't know, 2005, I think I was touring, and this lady I knew, Lisa Miller, was opening for Neil Young on the Greendale tour. And the Greendale tour was like a story thing with like actors and dancers and stuff. And I think Amber Tamblyn was like the main lady, and her father was there, the guy from Twin Peaks, the doctor. He's a Tamblyn. Anyway, it was one of the Tamblyn dads was there, and he came backstage. Lisa opened, and he came backstage and was like, hey, we need some dancers to come for the last song. So will you guys come up on, and it was like, go on stage with Neil Young and Crazy Horse. It was one of the greatest moments of my life that sadly is like pre-cell phone. There's just no video of it anywhere. But I got to go on stage and like do this, like, we're going to save the earth dance with all these people. And they were so quiet
really
on stage. And it was the first moment where I was like, my stupid band at like a club with 80 people in it is like, it's like a rehearsal room. It's just like, yeah, let's get a 6-pack and just play as loud as, the amp goes to 9, or 10. And it was like, here's Neil Young, who is just like, the sound in that room. And on stage, it was like quiet. It was really interesting. I think as you get older, you kind of, maybe you play better, or I don't know, there's something where or it's just something you learn over time that like, it's cool to be a teenager and just be pumped and like loud. And that's a thing and an energy, but it's also like, you can just bring it down and still sound huge like Neil does, or probably you guys do. I was talking to Al tonight about my gal, about what to talk about. And we were talking about our first concert we ever saw.
Yeah.
And I saw the Thompson Twins.
Oh, God.
That's what everybody says. I unfairly maligned, I'm going to have to say. But the Thompson Twins.
No, I think that's amazing. You're probably one of the only people I know who's ever seen the Thompson Twins, but also that's the first show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I was 12, and Berlin was the opening act. So I guess Berlin was the first band I ever really saw, but it was Berlin and the Thompson Twins. And Allison, my fiance, she's 6 years younger than me. She went the next night in Toronto, and that was her first concert. And so she was like, I don't know, 6.
Wow.
She doesn't really know why she went. Like, where were the Thompson Twins on a 6-year-old's radar? So we were thinking, well, that's kind of cool that our people who are so deep into music, like that was our first show that we saw. So we were curious, what was the first?
Mine was Devo in 1980.
Oh, dude. Oh my God. That's almost better than the Thompson Twins.
No, not really. I mean,
No, I'd say it's much better.
They were kind of, but they were like a pop band, they were like American Bandstand. And,
yeah. So where was it? When was it?
It was like Devo and Kiss for me, like,
wow.
Two like cartoon bands.
Right.
It was in Sacramento, California, at the Sacramento Memorial Auditorium. I think I was a freshman in high school. Were like punk rock had just started in Stockton. There were a few like punk rock bands that had played, that were kind of playing around and stuff. But we hadn't been to any of their shows yet. Everybody was just kind of learning about punk rock, and and then Devo was like the Clash, and we're on the radio. I got lucky, I guess, kind of hear these bands and to be around these older guys. I was around a bunch of older guys who were really into like English punk.
Yeah, you always need an older brother or an older friend to help guide the way.
I was kind of in between, I didn't really rock the boat. Like there was like what we called the Aggies, who were all the farm kids. And then there was the suburban kids who were from more of Stockton. So there was always kind of this like tension between city kids and the farm kids. And
yeah,
so music, I think, was a big part of that, and kind of made us feel a little superior, a little more, like maybe this will be something that'll get us out of this town. I mean, I don't know why I was thinking that at 14, but probably was.
Were you an MTV addict?
Not really. We didn't really have cable.
I didn't have cable either. I had to go to my friend's house and I would just guzzle Capri Suns, and we'd just lay on the floor and watch MTV for hours.
Really? All right. Yeah, I had some friends in town who had cable, and we'd watch it, but I don't know. And then punk rock happened, and that just seemed so, the bands that played in Stockton and stuff, it was just so scary, and there was great energy to it.
Who would come to Stockton?
Oh, everybody came. It was like Black Flag came.
Wow.
DOA was really great. And then Sacramento was just up the road.
Right.
Where every band. And then, the San Francisco was close. So my parents took us to a few shows up there that they didn't know they were taking us to. Right.
Did you have a guitar before you started going to these gigs? How did you get a guitar? Did you get one for Christmas?
No, it was all kind of luck, really. I mean, not luck, just like, just loved music so much. And then the Bunnymen happened, and then like, post-punk bands happened. And so I think right when I graduated from high school, Steve Malcolmus came back from his first bit of college.
So he was like a year or two ahead of you or something?
No, he was the same, but he went off to Virginia.
Okay.
And I went to the community college in Stockton, and he came back and he was like, oh, like I've got this, I'm playing guitar, and because he was in a couple punk bands in Stockton, so he'd already started kind of playing guitar and bass. And
yeah.
So he came back and he said, hey, go, buy a bass and we can start a band.
Wow.
So we started this like band that was just like, basically Bunnymen, REM covers, but like we made them up. And
okay. So you would just take the chords from something and kind of put your own.
Yeah.
Like we're going to try to play Do It Clean, but it's just something else.
Yeah. Our own version,
That's how you do it. That's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. So I bought a bass and just played along, and then
wow,
the guitar didn't come until then I went off to college in Arizona, and then I bought like a Mustang pawn shop or something, and then I started learning how to play guitar.
Where's the Mustang now?
Oh, the Mustang. The Mustang is going to come back to me very soon.
That's great.
I ended up selling the Mustang to a buddy of mine in Australia. It was after Pavement broke up.
Like, I don't need this thing anymore.
Yeah.
Like
3 or 4 years after that. And I was just like, Marty was staying at my house, and I was just like, see those 2 guitars over there? It was like, there was like a Mexican copy Jazzmaster as well. And I was, see those 2? I don't want to have anything to do with them anymore. And he's like, I'll give you $500 for each of them. I was like, sold.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he took it back to Australia, and it was all beat up. Like, I hadn't played it for years.
Yeah.
It was the first kind of Pavement guitar.
Wow.
First couple tours. And it had this like sticker on it it was called Getting Cooler, which was, Stockton was famous in those days for this thing called California Cooler.
Dude, that's what I came up on, man.
Made in Stockton.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Scott, it's
friends used to work there, and it was.
God, it's just another deep tie between us. That was my first drunk was California Coolers.
Yeah.
Going to see The Cure with my friend's older sister. Nothing like some like bad Michigan pot and a 2-liter of California Cooler and like a half pack of Marlboro Lights. It was just like, life couldn't get any better.
All right. So yeah, I'm getting the Mustang back because he actually asked me like, hey, do you want the Mustang back?
Right.
just recently. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should.
So he's like, it's now worth $5,000.
No, he'd sell it to me for what he bought it for. So that's very nice.
500 Australian. That's great. Are you going to add it to? You going to use it at the gigs?
I don't think so. I think it's just I'll just end up selling it one day.
So you don't have a sentimental attachment to any instrument in particular? I think of you always playing a Telecaster.
Yeah, the Tele Deluxe is like that's my favorite one. You know, like I think I found that in Berkeley in like 95 or 96.
Yeah.
And I just always played it.
Do you remember, like, I use this guitar on that song and this guitar on that song? I mean, do you have that kind of awareness? Because I've met some musicians who for me, I'm a nerd. I like guitars. I like thinking about them. I like to take them apart and put them together. And I have a hard time selling some that I'm like, that was my only guitar, and I used it on this song and that song and that period. But do you have memories of I used that on this song or that song?
Yeah, I do. I kind of do, but I'm not really a nerd on like equipment and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like I can barely, like, you know, string a guitar.
Well, hopefully you have somebody to handle that on the big show.
We've got the Pavement machine, as I call it, is pretty good at that.
Good. You just got to get up there and play and look good.
We've only done 3 shows, so hopefully we'll get through the next 50 or whatever.
Oh my God. How do you feel at your age going off on this like length? I mean, I'm 50 and I just did 30 days of like 27 shows in 30 days. And granted, it was driving ourselves and hauling our own stuff, but it's hard. It gets hard.
That's why after the last kind of record I did, I was just like, I don't, you know, it's not working for me, you know, like the playing the shows bit is the greatest thing.
It is.
You can actually play a show and, you know, have fans there, you know, like it's nice.
Yeah.
But all the in-between parts, it's really, it gets harder. Even with Pavement, it's hard. You're still traveling. You're still like
away from family and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's, you know, and it's stressful. And yeah, but today I just went out and played some golf for the first time in like a long time. And my body is not the same as it used to be. I'm so sore.
Oh man.
I wanted to ask you something. This is something I always thought was a big part of my upbringing with music. I worked at record stores from like right when I got into high school, right?
What was the store called?
It was called Record Factory. It was a chain, but you know, in those days it was like Tower Records or Record Factory.
Sure. And
it was kind of, it was basically still vinyl. The CDs were just starting to come in. But you had cool people working there. And it was like a big part of my kind of musical upbringing. And then that led to like a used record store in Stockton and stuff. And I know you have a history of record stores as well.
Yeah.
Grooves.
It is. Yeah, Grooves is a great store, and it was started by a couple. It was like a mom and pop store.
Worked at record stores before that?
My first job was scooping ice cream at Sanders, which is kind of like a Detroit area institution. And it was a little bit like definitely the Henry Rollins, Ian McCulloch at the Georgetown Haagen-Dazs. I mean, it was like me and 2 of my buddies who were stoned all the time. Nobody really seemed to be in charge. So I worked at Sanders for a while, and I was living in Birmingham, Michigan, which is a very well-to-do suburb of Detroit that still had a little bit of personality and kind of independent businesses downtown. And there was a little store that had, you know, you could get a REM poster and a Bunnymen t-shirt, and they sold, you know, like clove cigarettes and stuff to kids. And so there was stuff like a little bit of edgy, even within kind of a constrained, well-to-do place. But I think I left Sanders because there were 2 stores. There was Harmony House and Music Land. And those were the 2 chain record stores in my neighborhood. And you wanted to work at Harmony House because that was like Coca-Cola, you know, that was the real That was the thing.
Yeah, that was like Tower in Stockton. It was like
Exactly. I mean, Harmony House was Bob Dylan, and I went to Musicland that was like Steve Forbert, or whatever. And so I remember working at Musicland, and I got a job there. I applied, got a job, and I was getting $3.15 an hour. I remember like getting that paycheck, it was like you worked 41 hours and made like $119 or whatever it was, just no money. But, when you're a kid living at home, surrounded by music. And so it was a great job. I got fired because, the manager said you have too many friends coming to visit and you're just talking and babbling. And it's like, that's the thing that these chain stores don't understand, that used record stores get, is you're built. I wasn't talking to friends. I was building a community around music.
Yeah.
And they were young kids and they were poor and they weren't going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy a record while I'm here. But the great thing about used stores is you can go hang out and meet people who have your bug like you do, find out about shows, learn about a new band, join a band, start a band.
Totally.
And so it's funny when I think about how different that kind of ideology of a store like that was versus the used record stores I worked at later, that was all about, tell all your friends to come hang out and we'll go outside and smoke cigarettes and put on the new like Life's Rich pageant and talk about it.
The clerks at the stores, they would tell you like somebody would come up and have like the first Prince record or something. There was a guy at our store who was like, ooh, now there I'm talking. You're talking, and
right.
Then he was like a big Prince fan, and
right,
like way before anybody knew who Prince was, or and I had a manager, of course, who was into Springsteen and Elvis Costello. It wasn't really pop. Like pop music wasn't big, It was like rock music was big,
right?
At Tower and Record Factory,
right.
It was still rock and roll and. Maybe you'd have like, of course, like, the Cyndi Lauper record would be the big seller, or Madonna, but that still didn't feel like pop music,
No, it's different. I'm an old curmudgeon and I'm just like, that was so much better,
Well,
but
I mean, it was just different, and like,
yeah.
And I mean, thank God I got to experience that.
I worked at Grooves in San Francisco since 2003. I was a customer there from when I moved to San Francisco. And when the owners, it was him and his wife, when she passed away, he said, hey, I'm going to need some help here. And I've worked there since 2003. And I'm back at just over $3.15 an hour, but adjusted for inflation, but not much. I actually retired. I just retired yesterday.
No way.
Yeah, it was really kind of hard to do because it's like, I mean, 20 years, I've been alive 50 years and I was there 20 years just about.
That's amazing.
And, it's like anything that it's kind of like leaving something that you've done for so long, especially as you get older, gets harder because it's like, it's sort of admitting that like all that time has come and gone. You know what I mean? And like, if you just stay there, you kind of remain in that it's still 2006. You know what I mean? It's always like a safe place for me. And there were so many times I'd be on tour and I would think I'm in Bordeaux, France, and God, what I would pay to just be sitting at Grooves behind the counter, listening to Burt Bacharach with nobody in here and just relaxing. It was hard to let go, but I did. So,
you can play records for your kid and that's a pretty fun thing, like to see what they kind of grab onto,
What have you and your daughter bonded on musically?
Well, she was born in Australia and I had most of my records there.
Right.
So she'd take stuff out and just be all over the ground. And it'd be kind of fun to go like, oh, she likes, the Stranglers. But then when she kind of started understanding music a little more, we would play Dream Police. And she just loved side one of Dream Police. And it would just be like, spin me around during, there's some number third song is like kind of a dark kind of song on that record,
The dream police, they come to me in my
no
head.
lyrics, I think she still does, but yeah, there's moments like that, but now she's really into K-pop.
Okay.
And I'm kind of in this little dilemma because it's like it's great because she's really into it, and she's like collecting like CDs and posters, these bands, and like most of them are pretty good, but it's it's pop music, and I've heard it all before, obviously, and but it's good to see that she kind of connects with it.
Right.
And, and I know eventually she'll kind of come back from the dark side. But then she came to the, Primavera shows and was like, videotaping, and then I saw the video of it, and she's like singing along to all my songs.
That is so cool. Well, it's like us. I mean, we were kids and I wanted a Simon Le Bon haircut. I mean, I still love Duran Duran and all, but at some point you move on from the pop stuff.
If you're in a musical household like you have, I mean, it's they're gonna turn out okay
through osmosis. It's funny because when she's around and we play music, I have like a bug in me that's like I have to up my game of music. You know what I mean? Like I brought her home and it was like, I better put on Sun Ra or Rashawn Roland Kirk or Gilberto,
yeah.
And it's all like desafinado and like I had to kind of class up my music for the kid. Like I was like, I don't want to play her anything shitty. You know what I mean? At this tender age, I caught myself like almost like being the cool guy at the party. Let me throw on some Pharoah Sanders for you, kid, because I'm smart and I know it.
I kind of did that where I bought this Fela Kuti box set and would play this record, and she
that's great.
Man, that I play this song every morning to wake her up.
Wow.
And now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna completely go crazy. And so I went into this great record shop here in San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
It's been around for like 50 years. I went into like the world music section and went like, all right, I'm going to get like all this crazy, like African and, West African kind of like stuff that I've always wanted to buy on a record. And so I've been playing it every night, to see maybe she'll peek her head out.
Yeah. Wow. So, hey, I got an email from your agent and we're going to play a show together in January.
3 shows, I thought.
Are we doing 3 shows?
Oh no, the Spiral tour. Yeah,
I'm playing on the Medley Attack tour.
Yeah,
no, I'm talking about the important stuff.
Yes, please. That would be great if you could.
I think we're playing San Francisco or Oakland in January for Medley World Tour Attack.
Yeah,
West Coast Attack.
No.
So are you getting the band back together for some shows for that from like San Diego to Seattle or something like that?
I mean, it's going to be a hard one because we have to, you can't replace Matt Harris on bass because he's so important. And, such a history. But so we'll see how it goes.
When do your Pavement shows end?
Pavement shows end in mid-November.
So you get home, you chill for December, and then kind of...
Yeah, and then I'll start kind of rehearsing and
What convinced you to get back to loading your own gear and getting in the small, stinky van with 5 men?
I'm already trying to get out of it.
Oh, okay. So we may not play this show, or just play one show.
We'll see how it goes. I think once I start rehearsing some songs, I'll be into it. I really like the record, and there's a lot of fans who have kind of been asking us to play.
I've still got a Pavement ashtray.
I don't think we're bringing that back, but
okay,
that's a pretty rare item.
Oh, good. I'd better bring it in from the backyard.
Mark Eibel was really into like making sure we had socks.
Okay.
And a long sleeve shirt.
Uh-huh.
I wanted a program, like when you to go to shows
like Roxy Music 1977,
or even REM had programs.
Yeah.
Or
yeah. Okay.
I'm in charge of the program, and then there's some new shirts and some pennants. They're going to do these pennant posters, and There was talk about some tennis balls.
Oh, fantastic.
You can throw to your dog, or
I'm all for stupid merch ideas. How about some foam fingers?
that's a good idea.
I had kind of lost my mind at one point, and when I made a K Aura record, 2018 or 17, and Allison and I were in front of the computer with this like crazy online vendor. I did end up getting about 50 snow globes that had like the cover with me sitting in a snow globe. But I wanted to get foam fingers, but you had to get a pallet of foam fingers, and I was like, like, what am I going to do with 80 pounds of foam fingers? Like, 500 foam fingers, but Pavement could move 500 foam fingers.
You're going to be mad at me for bringing this so late in the game.
Just be like, guys, I've changed my mind on the program. It's going to be I'm going neon foam fingers.
So you are opening for us 3 shows on the West Coast. So
I am. I'm opening for Pavement. I can't believe it. I'm really excited. I don't know how it happened, but I got an email and I was real excited. Yeah. I just toured Europe as a 4-piece because Allison stayed home with our baby. So we're going to revert to the 5-piece, and I'm going to be without guitar.
Oh my God, that's great.
Prowling the stage, just
So
like
Allison's going to play.
So Al's going to play guitar, and then Doug Hilsinger on guitar and Rusty on drums, and this kid Corey has been playing bass, who's been playing with me for the last year. So yeah, we're going to kind of have a couple rehearsals when we get back and kind of change the who's plays what and remember this and all that around. But we did it a few times during COVID when San Francisco wouldn't allow vocalists outside. So we had like a really weird show at the chapel where I was in the building, sing, and I could only sing, and they projected me on a wall. It was done outside in the parking lot, and they projected me on the wall, and the band was on a stage in the parking lot. So I was like 300 yards away, 3 floors up in a building with a monitor.
Why did you,
singing.
Can you do that for the Pavement shows?
Oh
too?
God, it'd be great.
Then he could show me how to do it, so I can do it from the dressing room.
I'm sure there's a way to zoom yourself in.
That's kind of what I want to do on my tour as well.
It's just there's none of that pre-show stress. You're just like standing around with a microphone.
I did a bunch of shows like that where I would just like 4 or 5 songs. I would just not play guitar.
Yeah, I remember that.
Just be like Iggy Pop and just. This is great.
Oh, it's so fun. Because, when I play guitar, I mean, I got good banter and all, but I'm kind of tethered to the mic stand. When you're singing in guitar and it's like my eyes are closed half the time, and it's like, it's got to be so boring to watch. I mean, the songs are good and all, but like, come on, So when you got somebody who's at least prowling around a little bit or doing a Bob Pollard kicks and stuff, it's going to be fun, and everybody in the band is excited. And coming from Manchester, where we had a guy from the Smiths and 30 other people, to be playing in a room with 1,500 or 2,000 people is going to be so fun.
And what else is happening?
With what? My life?
I thought you were getting married.
I'm getting married on the 21st of August.
Oh, 21st of August.
Yeah. So in
Toronto or?
In Toronto. Yeah. So Allison's from Toronto. Her family's here. My family's coming from Detroit. We're going to hang out for like 2 days here, go out to dinner, and then have a backyard wedding. Very casual, like no ties required. And I'll be a married man. I had the baby first and got married second. And I waited as long as I could for both of them. I just kept putting it off. And, so right. You understand. Were you married first with baby, or did you guys have the baby first?
I was married first. Yes.
Okay. You're a good Christian. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of for me and Al, I think it's like, we've got a baby. We're obviously together, but it's important to the family to do it. So,
totally.
And good for taxes. And maybe I can become a Canadian citizen and avoid the onslaught of the next 4 years.
Right. Yeah, we're probably moving back to Australia and at the end of this next summer.
Is that right? To Brisbane or Melbourne.
Mornington Peninsula, where we were previously.
Well, now you can start that band with Les Pattinson.
Oh my God, I know. If he won't be scared to see me because of the COVID lockdown.
Oh.
We were like, basically we were 2 miles apart.
Right. And this is Les from the Bunnymen, all you people out there.
I
Yes.
know. Of all places to like,
He ended up there.
he
Yeah.
ended up there and I ended up there, and then they locked everybody down, and it was just like, oh, hey, Les, you wanna, and he's like, well, maybe we shouldn't, and I was like, well, I'm leaving. I got these Steve King like paintings for you, and well, you'll have to give them to me when you come back, mate.
I think you gave me a Steve Keen Heaven Up Here.
I asked him, I said, hey, can you send me, those Bunnymen ones and some other stuff? And he sent me like 10 of each, because that's how he does work. He just does everything.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, well, Kelley will like this one, and
Right.
Les will like this one.
There's a Steve Keen book coming out, I think, right?
There's a Steve King book out now. Yep. It's it's really cool. It's all of his kind of history and everything he's done. The book's really great, and he's a cool guy. He's been, we've known him for forever.
Well, speaking of the artwork, who did the artwork for Medley Attack?
Ashad Simonian.
Oh, Ashad. Okay. Yeah. I think it's great. It's a great image.
He's done all my stuff. And I told him, I said, this might be the last record since he's done the other three.
Yeah.
The last two, I said, why don't you try to make it so it kind of goes with the others, like a triptych,
Right.
Because these are the records I've done closest together.
If I think about Medley Attack and the Hypnotized cover, and then the one with the daggers with the knife, they all kind of.
That's the one you played. That's the one you played on.
I played a lot on that one, yeah. And but they all have that kind of paper collage look to
Yeah,
it.
he's really great. He did the one that my first kind of Spiral Stairs solo record, which had a picture of a dead
The raccoon
with a bunch of pills around it.
The real feel.
The real feel, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a alumnus of some great Central Valley bands like Erlenmart and Anti-Lions, and he's been around for a long time. Old friend.
Yeah. Well, the art's great. So were you happy with the new record?
I'm happy with the new record. It was really hard to make, and
yeah, you went through some hell. Yeah.
ended up being bittersweet, but I'm really happy with it. You seem to put out records like kind of in your sleep, like you can put out just amazing pop gems in 5 a year, like me, it takes me a while. We'll see if I can get to the next one. Do you ever feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do this?
I have a studio at my house and I play most of the instruments on my records myself. So for me, I've always said making my records is like some people, like you might be an oil painter and I'm just happy taking a Polaroid. You know what I mean? That's always kind of how I've described the way I work. I want to make one and get on to the next one. And I hear a melody and a guitar part and I can't wait to add the piano. And it's almost like a rush to be able to sit back and listen to the whole thing. And that has its good points and bad points, because there's plenty of times when I look at my Polaroid and go, if I would have spent a little more time getting a good drum sound, singing a better lyric or whatever, I wish I would have taken the time sometimes when I look back. But it's, it is what it is. It's, for me, it's like a document of a day over a period of a year.
Yeah.
And but I like Leonard Cohen, and he took 5 years to make records. So however you arrive at it, it's cool. Nobody should be in a race to have more stuff.
No.
But I had a period last year. I didn't have anything, man. I didn't know.
Really?
For the first time in my life, I was just sort of like, my tank was empty. And it was like, when you go to the dentist and they put that X-ray, that thing on your chest to keep the X-ray, I felt heavy and I felt like this weight. And it was like, I don't want to be in here.
Wow.
And then you start getting these mind games where it's like, well, maybe it's like Barton Fink. It's like, maybe I'll never write another play. I got no more ideas, and it was like, you and I, we've been in this long enough to know that it's a big cycle, and you keep at it, and sooner or later it starts to turn again. So I've been kind of going back to some things I made over the last year and finding a few good things, but it's definitely, I'm at a loose end a little bit right now.
You can always write songs about your kid.
Today I was sitting there singing a song to her that I was making up, like, what is it? Right. Right below your eyes, in the middle of your face, since the beginning of time, for the whole human race, you got a nose, and it'll help you sniff around, or something like that. You know, maybe I'm like I'm that 50-year-old dad, and it's time to really make millions of dollars writing this some little kid's record.
You can move to LA and be one of those guys.
Yeah, like end up writing for like Paw Patrol or something like that. So I'm sure the inquiring fans want to know, does Pavement write new stuff at sound checks? Is there any time where you guys are like, I don't feel like playing gold sounds today, can we just have a jam and go somewhere?
We haven't really had any sound checks to do that in yet. I mean, we've done have just been the songs, but yeah, I hope so. I mean, I really hope so. I don't know if it's going to happen. I can't really say, but yeah, I hope so. I've actually got a song I want to bring to everybody. It was there was this band used to drive around in a big old brown van, did lots of shows, didn't really put stuff much up their nose. I don't know why people thought they were hip. They were more miss than hit. So just imagine that with like a good Pavement riff, and there's a Pavement song.
Very good.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll see, man.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to Kelley Stoltz and Scott Kannberg for chatting. If you liked what you heard, check out both of their new albums, and of course, follow Talkhouse on your favorite podcasting platform. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.